The following is a production of Stevenson Media. Want to tip the host? Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Get a free Houston Sports State of the Union podcast t-shirt with a donation of $50 or more.
This is the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Houston Sports Nation, Nick Stevenson.
My goodness, thank you. Please be seated. My fellow Houstonians, welcome to this Houston Sports State of the Union address for the week of June 23rd. Happy June 27th, H-Town. If you're not from H-Town and you don't know what that means, Google it. I'm sorry, I can't help you. You probably don't belong listening to this show anyway. But I want to thank you guys so much. As always, there's a million different things you could be doing today. There's a presidential debate tonight. Why do you want to watch that? Listen to the president of Houston Sports. On today's show, the NBA draft was last night, and the Rockets say they got the guy that they wanted all along. I had a chance to interview SBNation writer and friend of the show, Lachard Binkley, and we got to talk about the draft, other rumors surrounding the Houston Rockets, and a few moves that they've already made. He was actually a part of GM Rafael Stone's press conference last night, so he had some great insight, and I'm happy to share that with you guys. The Houston Astros have won 7 games in a row without Tucker, without Verlander, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Like, I really don't. We can discuss that for sure. And lastly, I want to try to put a cap on the conversation that I had with my guest last week, Prescott Kelly. Time constraints last week didn't allow me to do that. So I want to go ahead and discuss those things, and that'll help us decide if the Texans are following the proper blueprint to build a Super Bowl contender. So we'll talk about all that and more. Hopefully I can give away a t-shirt today. That would be great. In the meantime, I want to thank you guys so much for being here and let me remind you of the ways that you can support the show. One of them you are doing already. You're listening, you're watching. Hopefully you're hitting follow, like, subscribe. Hopefully you're sharing with your friends. Those are the number one ways that you can support this show. But if you'd like to make a monetary contribution, you can add some money to my tip jar. You can either use this QR code right here if you're watching the video, or if you're listening, there is a link in the description of this video that you are watching or the audio that you're listening to that tip jar. Any money that you give to me will go right back to bringing you guys content, hopefully more and more quality content. And if you leave a donation of $50 or more, I will send you one of these sweet Houston Sports State of the Union podcast t-shirts. It'll have a QR code on the back just in case you wonder why people are following you around with their cell phone in their hand. There is a QR code on the back that leads to my link tree that has all the spaces that you can consume the content of the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. And those very same descriptions, you will find affiliate links to both the Houston Sports fan gear of the week and the podcast equipment I am using to bring you this show. Anytime you purchase any of that stuff from the link in the description, I will get some commission from that, and that money will also go back into the show. Lastly, I do have one more spot available for sponsorship if you are interested. I'm really hoping to be able to reveal the content for my sponsors that have already committed by next week's show. That would be ideal. That would be great. We are taking a little bit of a vacay for July 4th, but the goal is to have all the ads, have the commercial shot, and have everything ready to go so I can start advertising for those of you who have committed to that. And I really do appreciate that. So once again, those are all the ways you can support the show. But if you're just watching, if you're just listening, all I'm going to ask you is that you please, whatever platform you're watching on, hit share it with your friends. If you have friends who love Houston sports, let them know about the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast, and I would be very much obliged. Okay, so as far as the state of the Houston Rockets, once again, I got an opportunity to speak with Lachard Binkley, who so graciously gave me a few minutes of his time while he was on his lunch break. I can't reiterate this enough. Lachard has had zero obligation to help me out, to join my show. He's been very busy, obviously, over the last couple of days. We had the NBA draft last night. He did his own podcast. He tapped into the press conference with Rafael Stone. He's doing the thing, man. He's doing the thing that I hope to be doing very soon. And I've told him many, many times, though he has no obligation to do so, I really appreciate his time. And I'm anxious to share with you guys the interview that I did with him just earlier today, talking about the state of the Houston Rockets. Okay, Houston Sports Nation. Once again, I am graciously joined by Lachard Binkley at Binkley Hoops on Twitter. Well, the app formerly known as Twitter, I guess. He's still there. Writer for SBNation, the Dream Shake blog. Thank you so much for doing this again, man. We finally have something to talk about other than speculation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to be able to actually talk some actual basketball and not just, you said speculation and rumors.
So. Yeah, 100%. So let's get right into it, man. Now that we know the Rockets stayed pat at 3, Reed Sheppard was their guy. From Rafael's comments afterward, sounds like they were really high on him in the first place. So I want to get your thoughts. What do you like about the pick? What are some of your concerns about it?
So definitely they feel a need. Like you said, Rafael did say that they were zeroing in on Reed Sheppard. He said they weren't focused on anybody else but Reed Sheppard, and that if he wasn't there at 3, they were more than likely going to trade the pick. So, I mean, I guess you can take him at his word. I mean, a lot of times they tend to kind of push up the play that they end up drafting, but I kind of have a feeling that maybe that is the player that they did zero in on, because they still had a chance to trade back if they really wanted to do that, but they decided they want to go with Reed Sheppard, who definitely feels the need of a shooter that the Rockets have been lacking for the last 4 years. They've been one of the bottom teams ever since James Harden left in three-point percentage. They finished 23rd last year, only shooting 35% from the field. Reed Sheppard, of course, we all know now, the number's been out there a million times, but shot 52% from three-point range. Even though it was only on 4 attempts, that's one thing that I was a little bit concerned about, that, yes, he did shoot a really good percentage from 3, but it was only on a little bit over 4 attempts a game. His teammate, Dillingham, actually shot almost twice as many threes as Reed Sheppard did last season. But still, 52%. You're hoping that translates to the next level. I also like that, the more I look at him, he is a decent enough playmaker to where he should be able to play those backup point guard minutes. And also an above average defender, something I really didn't know a lot about before I started actually studying this game. That he is an above average defender. He does, anticipate passing lanes really well. He had like 2.5 steals per game last season. So there are some other things besides his shooting that you can definitely see why the Rockets picked him. When it comes down to concerns, it's definitely his size. He's only 6'2", maybe 6'3". That's probably pushing it. But
depending on what shoes he's wearing, right?
Exactly. Depending on who's measuring him. I mean, he has a slight frame, so that's something maybe a little bit concerned about. And especially in the NBA, where they do a lot of pick and roll, a lot of switches. We saw with Fred VanVleet last year, even though he is also only 6 feet, but he's definitely doesn't have a slight frame. He's at least able to hold his own when he gets switched on to like power forwards and centers. Will Reed Sheppard be able to do that? Does he have enough quickness to be able to stay with, the quickest players in the entire world in the NBA one-on-one? He's a good weak side defender, but we all know a lot of times it comes down to can you keep your man in front of you. So that's one thing you definitely got to be a little bit concerned about. And also, will he be able to get his own shot, or will he be more of a off-ball, JJ Redick type of player who has to be, only way he can get his shot is off a screen, a la Klay Thompson.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the moniker we usually give the white guy who's a little bit athletic is that sneaky athleticism. I think that's what I actually heard Jay Billis say that last night, and I just kind of rolled my eyes. But
high motor.
Right, like exactly. All the common monikers we give him. But at the same time, we talked about this last time you were on with me about how college shooting doesn't always translate. We talked about Jabari Smith and how shooting was supposed to be his strong point and hasn't quite translated at the next level yet. But in order to play for Ime, we also talked about that. You're going to have to do more than just shoot. So do you see him being able to find significant minutes right away, and at whose expense?
Yeah, and that's another thing I was concerned about, like where he's going to get the minutes. People were bringing up Aaron Holiday a lot, but Aaron Holiday was getting a lot of those minutes because of injuries to Amen, then injuries to Cam, and then
Hmm.
injuries to Alperin, which pushed Amen to the power forward position. So where are those minutes going to come from now with everybody healthy?
Right.
That's kind of the question. Are they going to take some away from Van Vliet? Maybe try to play Jalen a little bit less? Are they going to try to run a 3-guard rotation? That's kind of the question. That's what I actually asked Rafael about that. I asked him, um, does he see Reed being in the rotation early on, or can he spend some time in the G League? And of course, I knew he was going to say that was an MA decision, but
Right.
he also said that he sees the value in G League and that G League plays a lot better than what you see on a college level. But at the end of the day, he said if he beats our players, he beats our players. So
Yeah.
we may see a player that was getting minutes last season may not be getting those same minutes this season. I don't know
Right.
exactly who that would be because I don't see. Of course, he's not going to be playing over Jalen.
Right.
He's not going to be playing over Van Vliet. I mean, MA loves Van Vliet.
Right.
Van Vliet's the one guy he never benched last season. I
Right.
don't see that changing next season. So he's
Yeah.
not playing over him. So you would have to think maybe he gets more minutes if they try to cut down Dylan Brooks' minutes, or
Right.
maybe it takes Tari Eason a little bit longer to get back after not playing most of last season. So that's going to be the big question: is like, where is
Yeah.
he going to get the minutes to get on the court?
Well, here's what we do know. If he does get the minutes, it's because he earned them. And so
Yeah.
that's going to be the biggest thing for me. If he gets the minutes, it's because he earned them. You know, we talked a little bit about how Ime doesn't really have allegiance to a lot of the guys on this team. So
Yeah.
this is only his second draft. So that's another thing. There may be somebody that you and I think, oh, that person's spot is solidified. But Ime's the coach. So it's possible that that's not going to be the case. I want to ask you about the trade that happened before the draft, where the Rockets swapped picks with Brooklyn again. They returned Brooklyn their 2026 pick, the first rounder, and they also gave up the rights to swap with Brooklyn in 2025. In return, they get a 2027 that belongs to either Dallas or that one belongs to the Suns, and then in 2029 they get to pick whether they want Dallas or Phoenix.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but as soon as that deal went down, I said the Nets are probably about to trade Mikal Bridges. It just made too much sense. Once they got their picks back, now, they're in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes at that point. But I want to ask you about the Suns picks that the Rockets acquired. I don't know if you got a chance to ask Rafael about that. There's been a lot of speculation on why they wanted to acquire the Suns picks. What were your thoughts on that move when it happened? And have you heard anything with your ear to the ground that might make you have an idea of what the plan is with those picks?
Yeah, I kind of figured I wouldn't say it was surprising because you have to think about it. When they drafted Reed Shepherd last night, he just turned 20 a few days ago. So now you have yet another guy that's 22 years or younger. And we were just talking about minutes. Where is he going to get the minutes? So now you're going to try to draft somebody else again next season in the top 5 or top 10. And that's another guy you got to try to get minutes for. So Rafael basically said that when somebody asked him about that, he said that they wanted to push out those picks further out. They wanted to not have all the picks, year after year after year. They wanted to push those picks further out. Of course, he probably didn't say one of the main reasons why he wanted to do it, because if Phoenix does blow up, they'll be in the best position to trade those picks back to them.
Right.
But ultimately, what he did say is they wanted to kind of spread those picks out so they wouldn't have so many young guys all trying to play or try to get minutes at once. You also have to factor in they got a lot of people that's going to need extensions pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
You have Jalen and Alpern coming up, and then you're going to have Jabari and Tari. So they have a lot of moving parts coming up with these young players. So he just wanted to move those picks out. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, why would you give up the Brooklyn pick? That's the Cooper Flag pick. But end of the day, you probably only going to have a 14% chance to get them. And honestly, who even knows at this point? If we saw last season, it was a totally different top 3 going into last season than what ended up happening. So we don't even know if Cooper Flag is going to be the guy. And even if he is, we've seen multiple years now, the Rockets know better than anybody. Worst record doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You can still end up with the 4th pick overall. So ultimately, I think they just didn't want to have so many young guys and continue to draft them year after year after year.
Yeah, understood. And I tend to agree with that. What are your thoughts on, is there any fire behind the smoke about the Rockets being in win now mode and trying to acquire stars?
Yeah, I think it is for the players they're talking about. It didn't really make sense. Like Kevin Durant doesn't really make sense. He still even in the mode of trying to win now. I don't know if he really still fits the timeline.
Right.
He's pretty much past his prime. He's still a really good player, but are you really going to give up multiple picks plus multiple players, including Şengün, for Kevin Durant, who hasn't really been able to stay healthy the last few seasons? He was a little bit more healthy last year, but he
Yeah.
still deals with injuries, on occasion throughout the season. Do you really want to give up that many assets for a player that, I mean, let's be honest, he was just with Phoenix
Yeah.
on a much better team, and they couldn't even get out of the first round. So
Right.
do you really want to give up all his assets for Kevin Durant? But I do think that if an opportunity comes up like a Devin Booker, absolutely they would go for him, or
100%.
a player like that. I think that because we really don't know who else is going to be available next season. It could be somebody we have no idea about that all of a sudden becomes available because they want to get away from their team. So you want to be in the best position to make those moves. I think they'll start the season with the team they have. They may bring in like another wing player that can take the Reggie Bullock role. But as far as making a huge deal, I don't see them doing this off season. But if they start off slow next season, let's say, for instance, Jalen Green, if he starts his notorious slow starts, then he definitely will be on the trading block. I don't think that's some type of big secret,
Right.
because we all know he's coming up for a extension here pretty soon. So they have to make a decision on whether they want to keep Jalen Green or not. And if they start off slow, let's say they're around 500 in December, I wouldn't be surprised if they take a swing and try to go out there and get another player.
Man, I don't know if you got wood in your dashboard, but knock on something. Hopefully that's not the case, man. There's a lot of anticipation for this season and the improvement, and we're hoping Jalen Green will get off to a quick start. Really quick, and I think, to me, that's the move for getting the Suns picks later, though, because I think a lot of people anticipate if that time comes and this big three that they have doesn't work out, they may be looking to move Devin Booker, and what better way to do that than what they did with Brooklyn? Get your own picks back. Yeah. So I feel like that is a very good strategic move. Hopefully we develop in the perfect world, you develop your own guys and you don't have to worry about other people's stars. Because even in Houston Rockets history, we've tried all the ways. We've drafted our own stars and developed them. We've traded for other people's stars, and then we've tried the aging star route. The only thing that hung two banners in those rafters was drafting our guys. And you look at most of the teams that are successful, unless you're the Lakers or Miami, which, Houston's a great city, but we're not competing with LA and Miami when it comes to weather and things of that nature and lifestyle. So the best way, I believe, is hopefully, like I said last time we spoke, I trust his coaching staff, trust his front office. Hopefully we develop our guys and we don't even have to have this conversation. But it is a good strategy, I believe, to push those picks back and maybe have an opportunity to pick up a Devin Booker. So, I know you don't have a whole lot of time, so I appreciate us having this conversation. One last question about Reed Sheppard. I wanted to know what you feel like him playing at a program like Kentucky under Coach Calipari. Does that add anything to his value when they're in the draft process?
I think because we've seen pretty much, I think the last 20 years or something crazy, it's been a Kentucky player drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
So you definitely know that the lineage is there. You know that the reputation is there, and also you got to think about both his parents played at Kentucky.
Right.
I think his father was like the Final Four MVP or most valuable player. So he has that basketball blood in his entire family. And then on top of that, you throw in the fact that he played for Kentucky. Yeah. Surprisingly, I don't know if people pay as much attention to it. He only started like 5 games last season. But that also tells you how much talent Kentucky has.
100%.
Has there. So I definitely, you always want to look at, the Kentucky players in the past, like John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, players like that played there and had success in the NBA. So you know one thing, he's at least going to he was coached in the right way.
Yeah.
So he's at least going to know the fundamentals of the game. He's going to know where to be on the court. He's going to know how to at least be a professional. So
Yeah.
that's the one thing you can at least say coming from Kentucky is that he's going to have all those things coming into the NBA. It's not like playing for, no disrespect, for the G League Ignite,
Right.
where you're not exactly sure what you're getting from there. So that's the one good thing about, coming from Kentucky.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Let me ask you one more question, and I'll let you get out of here. I need you to give me your low-end comp for Reed Sheppard, and what do you think his high-end comp would be?
Oof. I would say low-end comp. That's a good one. I'd probably say maybe the Kirk Hanger type role, somewhere, or more of a. I would say instead of a comp, I would say a low end to good role player.
Okay.
On a contending team. I would say that's probably the low end for him. Somebody probably
like a TJ McConnell
guy, a complete specialist. That's pretty much all they are, is just a specialist.
Right. Kind of like a TJ McConnell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like around that role. I mean, if you're talking about high end, if he, maxes out his ability, like I mentioned before, like a Klay Thompson type. Of course, he doesn't have the size of a Klay Thompson. Maybe he would never be the defender, but a player that, even though he's only doing one thing, he does that one thing so well that he has to be on the court. Yeah. And that's something that you definitely want to see from him. Or I even see some people compare him to like a Mike Bibby, because Mike Bibby didn't necessarily have wasn't the most athletic,
100%.
Didn't do anything exceptionally well, but the things that he did do well, play good enough defense, be able to be at least a connector on the offensive end, not necessarily a prototypical playmaker. That's something that I think that if Reed Sheppard kind of maxes out that way he could be, do I ever think he's going to be a superstar level player? Probably not.
Yeah.
Even a star level player? Probably not. But if you can get a type of player that you can depend on is going to shoot 38-40% from three-point range and give you above average defense, I think the Rockets would take that at 3 with this, especially with this draft where it was just really no clear-cut best player.
I like that Mike Bibby comparison, man. I would take that in a heartbeat, and I'm sure the Rockets would too. Well, Lachard, thank you so much for joining me again. I want to remind my audience you can find Lachard Binkley at Binkley Hoops on X. He is a sports writer for SBNation, the Dream Shake blog. I will have all of his links in the description. I'm glad we finally got to talk some real basketball, man. I can't wait till we're actually talking games, man. I hope we get the opportunity to do this again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It'll be right around the corner. Summer league's coming up, so we'll
for sure.
basketball on the court. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, you keep your ear to the ground and make sure you give me some exclusives, man. Try to help a brother out. You know what I mean?
I hear you, man. Yeah, we will definitely link back up again.
All right, man. I appreciate it so much, man. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely, man. You have a good one.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to get that breaking news for the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. That was my man, Lachard Binkley. I'm so grateful for him for taking the time to do that. He was supposed to go to the draft party last night, and I was thinking about doing it too. I thought maybe that'd be a good place to do some networking. And he's kind of my same spirit animal because we just decided to watch the draft on TV. And then the GM press conference was virtual after that. So he had the privilege of being a part of that. Man, like I told him, man, what a dream come true. Hopefully one day your boy will be in that press conference as well, representing for Houston Sports Nation. But like I said, no obligation for him to do that. But he's joined the show, and he'll be joining the show frequently to talk Houston Rockets basketball. Anybody who knows me knows the Rockets are my favorite team in the city, so I'm always hyped to talk basketball. Reed Sheppard, I got to say, he mentioned it. GM Rafael Stone said that's the dude we wanted the whole time. And they did a really good job of keeping that under wraps, if that's the case, because everyone was predicting that they were going to take Donovan Clingan. And not just local media, but even some of the big wigs, the Adrian Wojnarowskis, I'm blanking out on Wendy. Brian Windhorst. They were all reporting that the Rockets were really zeroing in on Donovan Clingan. So the Rockets did a good job of maybe doing some misdirection. I don't know, or maybe they were just keeping it close to the chest. But it's also possible that maybe he's just saying that because that's the guy he got. I don't know. You want to instill your new draft pick with confidence. You want him to believe that you truly wanted him, but I see no reason why they shouldn't want somebody like Reed Sheppard because of what he brings to the table. And just really quick, let me share with you guys. He had one season at Kentucky. He was a sixth man, so he played about 28, 29 minutes per game, but he averaged 12.5 points per game. He shot 53.6% from the field, 52.1 from 3-point. And that, my friends, is probably the reason he's a Houston Rocket, because of all the things that the Rockets needed. And I brought this up as soon as the season ended and we started talking about draft. More than anything else, this team needs shooting. And Reed Sheppard brings exactly that. The question is, where's he going to get the minutes from? And as Lachard was talking about, one of the reasons they wanted to move this pick is because they already had so many young players, and you don't know where's this guy going to get his time. But the way I see it and the way I think Ime Udoka sees it is if he comes into camp and he earns the minutes, he'll get the minutes. And that's what you hope. You hope that he balls out. I'm extremely excited to see how he plays with Jalen Green, with Amen Thompson, with Cam Whitmore. And I'm excited for what he could be on the high end. When he was asked to describe himself and give himself a comp, he said he tries to take a little bit from everybody. He likes the way that Chris Paul conducts the court, controls the game, is able to get to his spots. He brought up Devin Booker, the way he gets to his spot in the mid-range whenever he wants. And he brought up Steph Curry and the way that he can move with or without the ball, and he can be moving all over the court, running back and forth, and then immediately set his feet and get that jumper off. And if he can hone in and be a little bit of each of those guys, I can see him being a quality player. I like the Mike Bibby comp. I really liked Mike Bibby as a player when he played for the Kings. I told Lachard, man, I would take that in a heartbeat. So the Houston Rockets are supposed to be in win now mode. Now, I don't think win now means win the championship. I don't think they have any delusions that they're a championship contender next year, but going 41-41 and being a team that now is trying to move from that phase 2 to phase 3 of being a playoff team. Once you get in the tournament, anything can happen, right? At least that's what we all hope. But I mean, the Dallas Mavericks, keep in mind, they had, 2 top 15 guys on their team, but they were a 5th seed. They made it to the NBA Finals. The thing about it, though, is the West is so loaded. Next year, I could see you winning 45 plus games and maybe not even making the play-in. The West is going to be crazy. But, those things always tend to balance themselves out. Somebody's going to get injured. Hopefully no one on our team. Some team's going to have a down year. Some team's going to take a step back. Hopefully it's the Lakers. Sorry, JJ Redick. But you just know that the West is going to be, it's going to be, I don't know if you guys remember, the West has been the dominant league for almost my entire lifetime. But I don't know if you guys remember in 2008 when the Rockets won their 22-game win streak. That year, the West was murderer's row. When they started that win streak, I think they were like in 10th place, and that win streak eventually took them to the number 1 spot, but they won 22 games in a row, and they only were in first place by like a game or half a game. It was crazy. I mean, that year, I think they ended up a 5th seed with 52 wins, I think it was. The West was just insane that year. And it seems like next year is going to be one of those years where it's the same way. But I'm just looking forward to Houston Rockets basketball, man. I'm telling you, I watched the playoffs, and the playoffs were so exciting, and I miss seeing the Houston Rockets in the playoffs, and I can't wait to see that again. So I want to thank Lachard again. Hopefully I'll have him on again very soon so we can talk some summer league, see how these rooks look The Rockets also recently just made a trade for a forward from the Atlanta Hawks. I want to say it's Adrian Griffin Jr. I could be wrong. That happened literally right before I went on. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. If anybody's in the chat and they want to correct me, that's cool. But I'm looking forward to some Houston Rockets basketball. I would say the state of the Houston Rockets right now is good. There's excitement. There's anticipation. And with that, let's move on to the state of the Houston Astros. Okay. I mentioned in the opening, Houston Astros have won 7 in a row. And I'm an Astros fan, so I should be really excited that they won 7 in a row. They've done it without Tucker, who's still hurt with that shin injury, and they've done it without Verlander. I should be really, really excited. The problem is, dude, I don't know if that's a good thing. I'm really not sure. Because here's my worry. My worry is that this win streak and them winning will be just enough for them to decide, you know what? Maybe we should be buyers at the deadline. Maybe we shouldn't trade away assets and get something back for players that probably aren't coming back next year anyway. But I've talked about many, many times on this show how if there's one team that I really, really believe can pull off something special, it is the Houston Astros, because I've witnessed them do that in this last decade. And they've begun drawing a lot of comparison to the 2005 team that famously was buried around this time in the season. The Houston Chronicle made them a headstone, and you guys all know what happened. They went on a historical run. They ended up getting into the playoffs on the last day of the season and rode that momentum all the way to the World Series, where they were swept by the Chicago White Sox. So why not this team? That's the question. I mean, besides the obvious fact that that was 20 years ago, and obviously nobody that was on that team is on the team now. But we have recent examples of teams that really, really struggled, got hot, barely scraped their way into the playoffs, and then at least got to the World Series. One of them even won it, the Washington Nationals. I know that hurts because it was against us, but it's not outside the realm of possibility that the Astros, especially once they get Tucker back, once they get Verlander back, all of a sudden, Eric Getty's looking good. Fromber's doing his thing. Even got some decent starts from Hunter Brown recently. And I don't know, man. I still don't know the status of Lance McCullers. But there's reason to believe that, like, maybe, just maybe. Here's the problem, though. Does that maybe, just maybe hurt you? Let's say they make the playoffs. I think them making the playoffs and getting to the ALCS last season covered up a lot of their warts and their pimples, man. And so we went into this season with a level of optimism that maybe we shouldn't have if we would have really thought about exactly how last season went down. They struggled for much, much, much of the season. I think they only were in first place for like a matter of days throughout the season, only to end the season on top. I just get worried that because eventually I think the Astros are either going to ride this thing till the wheels fall off, which they could do. And then once those wheels fall off, it's going to be really, really bad. Or you can call that pit crew in to do a little bit of a reset and, you know, maybe not completely tear the team apart, but do like a soft reset, a little bit of maintenance, and maybe you can keep this thing going for a little bit longer and it never has to completely be blown up again, like we've already experienced in Astros history. So If I am Dana Brown, let me check the standings really quick because this is all very fluid. I'm trying to see how many games behind the Mariners. 4.5 games back on a 7-game win streak. Ooh, baby. We got a 3-game series versus the Mets. And then 4 games Toronto. 3 with Minnesota. Then Miami. I don't know, man. The Mets should be gettable. Toronto, we've already beaten them multiple times. I mean, they got some teams here that they can beat up on, for sure. I don't think any of these teams that they're playing in the next several weeks are above 500, which, congratulations, the Astros just got to 500 with their latest win against the Rockies yesterday. And they're doing it with guys that, I mean, we're talking about Trey Cabbage, Leperfido, guys that we didn't even know were going to be on this team when the year started, you know? And then you still got, I mean, Altuve's doing his thing. You know, Fromber's been good. But, like, the guys that they're doing this with right now are not guys that we were all super excited about. And so you hope they can keep it going. You hope that just maybe there's another miracle left in them. My biggest concern, though, is that it kind of just delays the inevitable. And the biggest difference between this team and the 2005 team is the 2005 team had like a historically good pitching staff, at least starters. We've gone over this before. You had Clemens, you had Oswalt, you had Pettit, and then you had Wandy Rodriguez and Brandon Backey, 2 young, pretty solid starters. Then you had your bullpen of Qualls, Lidge, Wheeler. Their pitching is what got them back into this. I don't think we have that pitching staff on this team. Well, obviously, I mean, other than Verlander, I don't know that we have any Hall of Famers on this pitching staff right now. I'm trying to think. Yeah, no. Maybe I hate when I get on this show and I forget people's names. Our new closer that we just spent a bajuka duka dollars on. It'll come to me later. I really need to take ginkgo biloba. Getting old sucks, guys. Let me just say that. Getting old really sucks. I'm just going to make my brain hurt even harder if I try to remember it during the middle of the show. But what I'm saying is like, there's not a Hall of Fame pitching staff on this team. But when it comes to the bats, we can definitely score a lot more than the 2005 Astros could. The 2005 Astros offense was abysmal. And you cannot say that about this Astros team. And as they get healthy and they got a little bit of momentum, it's tough, man. I don't remember when's the trade deadline. I know it's sometime next month, or is it in August? This is great radio. I'm going to have you guys listen to me search for the MLB trade deadline. Really, Google? You don't even want to tell me when it is? All right. June. No, it's not June 26th. Anyway, it's coming up soon. I can't believe that searching MLB trade deadline. Okay, July 30th. Thank you. At 6 p.m. So looking at the calendar, we're about a month away. And in that month, we are playing, once again, almost nobody that's over 500 until we get to past the All-Star game. Once we get past the All-Star game, we have a 3 games with Seattle. That's going to be huge. Man, if we can beat up on some of these teams, yeah, you can't be sellers right now. You're 4.5 back. You have a series coming up with them in a month. And that's after you've taken a break, All-Star break. Hopefully you're getting Verlander back. You're getting Tucker back. Tucker may be back sooner than the All-Star break. So I was just reading that today. I don't know, man. Keep faith alive. Keep faith alive that the Houston Astros can pull off a miracle and win this division. And then once in baseball, truly, once you get into the dance, far more so than the NBA, once you get into the dance, literally anything can happen. And the Astros have the pedigree to pull this off. So I really hope that they'll be able to. My brother JT, I saw that you left me some H-Town emojis. Love you, big bro. Thank you for tuning into the show. I don't really have a whole lot on the state of the Houston Texans, but I do want to cap off some of the debate that I started last week, which has a lot to do with the Houston Texans and the situation that they find themselves in as a young team with a young star quarterback. Heck it, I just like playing the State of the Houston Texans sound, so let's do it. Little behind the curtain. That's what I'm talking about. That's me. I made that sound myself. And the reason I did it is because I was searching for football noises and I didn't want to have to pay money or pay anybody to use their sounds. So I figured make your own sounds. But yeah, that's actually me. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. Moving on. Okay. After listening back to last week's show, it became really clear to me that either I wasn't communicating with my man P. Scott very well, or he just straight up wasn't listening to me. Because as I listened back, I realized we spent the first 20 minutes of the show. He was thinking that I was in agreement with the Jaguars giving Trevor Lawrence a contract extension of $275 million. I thought I made it pretty clear from the beginning that I did not agree with that. And that him getting that money was actually a notch in P. Scott's argument that you should not pay quarterbacks what the market demands. And I don't disagree with you should not pay quarterbacks what the market demands when it's somebody like Trevor Lawrence. So I also listened back and I noticed there was a lot of questions that I asked P. Scott that he never answered. And I want to give him an opportunity to come back. I don't know if he'll be able to come back tonight while we're on the live stream, but I would like to give him an opportunity to defend himself, defend his honor. But I found most of his arguments in this debate extremely flawed, and I'll explain to you why. So, and I want to try to separate the two because some of the arguments got conflated and it was difficult to know which one we were talking about at which time. So let me start. Our first argument was that he said, and he said this in his own show, it's on Wax. You can go back and listen to it. The concept of find a great young quarterback in the draft. And then once you have that great young quarterback, trying to win with established free agents, that means spending money in other places, using your cap space that you have to pay for good free agents is the best way to build a Super Bowl contending team. He said it was BS. And like, I've already recited the data multiple times. Like, I'm not going to go over it again. He's just wrong about that. And that's okay. But that's the way to do it. It's happened in 6 straight Super Bowls. Somebody has been on a team that had a quarterback on their rookie deal and had very good free agents signings put around them. They put their money to build up the rest of the team while they had a cheap quarterback. That's what every GM in the league is trying to do because the proof is in the pudding. That'll give you a chance to win a Super Bowl. He argued that's not how you win a Super Bowl. But my argument is you got to get there if you want to win it. Once you get there, then it's about you and the other team on the other side. But that's the only thing standing in your way. You cannot win if you don't get there. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again next year. It could be Brock Purdy again. He's still on his rookie deal. He hasn't got extended yet. Hell, maybe it's Caleb Williams. Or dare I say CJ Stroud? Could CJ Stroud possibly lead this team to another Super Bowl? It's not outside of the realm of possibility. I have a great feeling that will probably be a trend in the league for many years to come now. But that's already established. It's established. That's the smartest way to go about it, if you can. The question is, when it's time to pay said young quarterback who's established that he is a good quarterback, do you pay him what the market requires you to pay him, even if he doesn't become Patrick Mahomes? The argument that Prescott Kelly was making was that the only player that should make Patrick Mahomes money is Patrick Mahomes. And he said that there's a difference between understanding why someone does it and should they. If you understand why the team is doing it, then you know that they should. The only question is, are they choosing the right guys to give the money to? And I think that for the most part, Prescott and I are in agreement on the players that should not get paid. The Daniel Jones of the world, I believe that Trevor Lawrence should not have gotten the extension that he got. And I know that Prescott agrees with me on that. And then that's kind of where we fell off. Where we don't agree on is who should get paid. So Prescott argued that the likes of Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow are not Patrick Mahomes. Therefore, they are not the guy. It's on wax. You can go listen to it. I'm not twisting his words. It's what he said. And I'll go even further on what he said. He said, quote, if they couldn't get it done, which he made very clear, get it done meant winning the Super Bowl. Just getting there was not getting it done. Then why should we believe, if they couldn't get it done, while they're on their rookie contract, he said this, Prescott, you said if they couldn't get it done while they're on their rookie contract, then what makes you believe they can get it done after they get paid? No, Prescott, you do realize that by making that argument, you are acknowledging and admitting that the best way to quote unquote get it done is while they're on their rookie contract. I love you, my friend. You are one of the most talented podcasters I have ever come across. There's no doubting that. Like, you are a great podcaster. But in that instance, man, you're arguing with yourself and you're contradicting yourself. Because if you're making that argument, then you're acknowledging the best time to do it was while they were on their rookie deal. However, all that aside, second, you're also saying that if a quarterback cannot win a Super Bowl within the first 3 years of their deal, then they're never going to win one. Now, you're not saying word for word they're never going to win it. But you're saying if they don't win it on their rookie deal, which we already agreed, your first 3 years is when you become eligible for a contract extension. Some guys have been made to play a fourth and fifth year. 9 times out of 10, if you've been made to play your fourth and fifth year, you're probably not the guy. Some bad teams have given extensions after that third year. The Blake Bortles of the world, Jacksonville, the Trevor Lawrences of the world. Are we seeing a trend here? AFC South war zone. Are we seeing a trend here? But you said if they didn't get it done on their rookie deal. So if they don't win a Super Bowl in the first 5 years, you're saying that means they'll move on. There's no chance they could win it now that they're paid. Well, we've already established that, yes, he's the GOAT, but Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were able to navigate both scenarios perfectly. But you realize by making that argument that if you couldn't get it done on your rookie deal, then what makes you think they're ever going to get it done? You realize that by that logic, let's apply the rules. We can either apply the rules of today and move it back to these former quarterbacks, or we bring those former quarterbacks up to today, however you want to do it. I don't want to confuse you. But by that logic, if John Elway played with the same contract rules that exist now, then he would never have been, you would say basically he shouldn't have gotten a contract extension. Neither would Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Matthew Stafford, not even your beloved Jim Kelly. By this standard that you have set, should have gotten a contract extension after 5 years because they didn't get it done. That's just a flawed argument, man. And where you and I also disagree is that these quarterbacks that we're talking about, the Jalen Hurts, the Joe Burrows, the Brock Purdy's, we're disagreeing 100% that they didn't get it done. Even Lamar Jackson, no, he didn't make it to a Super Bowl, but the man has won league MVP twice. He's getting it done. Is he getting it done at the level of Patrick Mahomes? No, but who is? That's the point. And you spent 10 minutes explaining to me, arguing that the draft is a crapshoot, as if somehow you thought that was debunking my argument, when it's actually 100% in support of my argument. I know the draft is a crapshoot. That's why when you find a guy, you make sure you keep him. Because you don't know if you're going to find another guy or how long it's going to take you to find another guy. Even in the argument of Jared Goff, which you've said repeatedly, Jared Goff is cheeks. The Lions are stupid for giving him an extension. Once again, you understand why, but you don't agree with it. If you understand why, then you agree with it. But Jared Goff, one of the questions I ask you that I still don't have an answer to, and I would love for you to either come on the show, let's talk about it, man. Like, I have a long list of questions that I asked that I never got an answer to. But let's pretend Jared Goff did not get the extension that he got. I need you to tell me who was the free agent quarterback that should be playing for the Detroit Lions this year, and who's the quarterback in the draft that you would have drafted at 26. I'll wait on that answer, my friend. But let's pretend Prescott Kelly is the GM of, you're the GM of the Lions. Jared Goff gets this team to the NFC Championship and they win a playoff game for the first time in 30 years. Now, not only do you have to explain to the fans who have bled with this team for 30 years of sucking why you're getting rid of their quarterback, you got to explain to the players on this team, the free agents that either stayed when they could have left, or the free agents that you brought in and said, hey, man, we're going to be a Super Bowl contending team. You got to explain to them why you're going to be starting Teddy Bridgewater or Hendon Hooker, and then you're not getting a quarterback at 26, not in this year's draft, so you would have had to got rid of even more assets to move up in the draft, to draft one of the 6 quarterbacks that went in the first 12 picks. And you're doing all that, so what? You can get J.J. McCarthy? Is J.J. McCarthy better than Jared Goff? We don't even know if Caleb Williams is better than Jared Goff. Remember, Trevor Lawrence was that can't-miss prospect too. The best prospect since Andrew Luck. So you, as the GM of the Lions, you are going to look these fans, look these players, look the media in the face and say, you know what? Jared Goff is cheeks. I'm letting him go. I can get the same production out of somebody else for a whole lot cheaper. bro, that will get you fired in 3 minutes. We're going to find out on when we play Madden and we have our own online league. We're going to find out in a hurry if that's how you build a team, man. But I want to know, who's the quarterback? You're going to start Jameis Winston? Who are you going to draft? You're going to get Gardner Minshew? You think those guys are going to give you the same production as Jared Goff? Jared Goff has been to the Super Bowl, and he's been to the NFC Championship game. Now, I'm not saying he's the guy that carried those teams there, but he has proven, you give me some weapons, you give me a defense, you give me a running game, and I can get you to the Super Bowl. I can get you to the NFC Championship game. Do you realize how many teams in this league haven't been anywhere close to that? I'm a fan of one of them. I would take an AFC Championship game right now. Now, I got the quarterback that I think can get me there, But if I didn't, you think I'd say, Jared Goff, he's trash. I don't want him. You know who had that same any quarterback will do attitude? A gentleman by the name of Bill O'Brien. This guy is the same guy who tried to convince us that Ryan Fitzpatrick, Brian Hoyer, Ryan Mallett, Tom freaking Savage were all good enough quarterbacks to win with. So much so that when he finally got a quarterback in Deshaun Watson, he decided not to start him for a half when Tom Savage got the crap beat out of him for the first half. And then all of a sudden, Deshaun Watson comes in and immediately brings the team back and almost wins the game. Then it hits him. You know what? Having a quarterback in this league is kind of important. It's important, man. And there ain't that many of them that are good. And that's the reason I'm not going to lie and pretend that it's not also sometimes pride. You don't think that the Jaguars have pride that force them to pay? That force them to pay Trevor Lawrence money that he doesn't deserve? I mean, it's been said multiple times. The dude's getting paid for what he did in college. And because somebody drafted him number 1 overall, and they have a point to prove now. Maybe they prove it. Maybe he has a great season and he becomes every bit of the quarterback that he was projected to be. I don't think so. But hey, I don't get paid to make those decisions. But all I'm saying is, man, if you got a guy, you know, I asked you the question, who do you have a better chance of beating Patrick Mahomes with? Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield? And you deflected and said, well, of course you want to have Joe Burrow over Baker Mayfield. That's not the question. Yes, obviously as a quarterback of your team, you would rather have Joe Burrow than Baker Mayfield. But I asked the question, who do you have a better chance of beating Patrick Mahomes with? Because if you don't pay Joe Burrow the $55 million, if you don't pay Lamar Jackson the $55 million, if you don't pay Jalen Hurts, the quarterback you're going to end up with is Baker Mayfield or Gardner Minshew. Or what's the dude who just signed on with Seattle? Who was playing in Washington. I got to stop trying to remember names while I'm doing this show. My point being, though, that's why when you have a guy that you win, that you know you can win with, you pay that man. It's the nature of the beast. Okay, you saw what the Texans looked like with CJ Stroud in the game. And then you saw what they looked like when Case Keenum was in the game. Case Keenum's not a bad quarterback. Davis Mills had a pretty good rookie season. But when you have the guy, it makes a difference. And you can see the difference. When he steps off the field, when Joe Burrow was not playing for the Bengals, were they winning games? No, they were not. The first, 3-4 weeks of the season while he was hurt and clearly not himself, they were losing games. as soon as he was healthy. All of a sudden, they were the hottest team in the league. All of a sudden, they were AFC favorites again. Or not, maybe not favorites, because you still had Kansas City. But they were the taste of the town. Until they played that young rookie from Ohio State. Christ Jesus Stroud. Oh! Let me watch out for the lightning. All the Christians are mad at me now. I'm just saying, bro. It makes a difference. The Bengals know all they need to know that if they lose Joe Burrow, they're in trouble. He's the guy. If CJ Stroud puts in 2 more seasons like he's put in last season, they'll know he's the guy. And you know what? He'll get paid. And that's what they should do. That's what smart teams do. Then you have the Bears of the world who draft Trubisky. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars who give extensions to quarterbacks that they shouldn't. I don't even argue that Carson Wentz shouldn't have gotten an extension. He was the starting quarterback for a Super Bowl winning team. I truly believe that the Eagles would have won the Super Bowl that year had he not gotten hurt. I know they won it with their backup. I believe they still would have won. Like Carson Wentz was having a really good season. Did he have a great team around him? Of course he did. Because when you have a young quarterback who's good, you put a great team around him so that you have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I rest my case. Like I said, P. Scott, I love you, bro. You can come on and defend your honor at any time. But all I'm saying is that the proof is in the pudding, man. Even so, I talked about Bill O'Brien, just going back to him and Deshaun Watson. Even though he was stubborn and didn't want to start him, Deshaun got in the game. He proved, I'm that dude. He proved it for 3 years, and the Texans extended him like they should have. Then he started getting massages, unfortunately. But all I'm saying is, man, if you got a guy and he proves to you, look, I'm one of the top quarterbacks in the league, you better lock that guy up. Because we said it, there's 32 teams in the league. There's probably 10 teams that are happy with their quarterback. It's probably not even that high. It's probably like 5 or 6 teams that are truly happy with their quarterback. So when you get a guy that gives you a shot, you lock him up, man. The defense rests. If I want to be cross-examined later, or if you want to cross-examine me later, you are more than welcome. But ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you listening to the show. For those of you who watched today, thank you so much for doing so. I want to quickly remind you of the ways that you can support the show again. One of them you've been doing, you're listening, you're watching. Hopefully you've shared with your friends and family. Hit follow, hit like, hit subscribe. Please like and share the content. I try to put out many shorts of the show. I know not everybody can sit down and watch an entire hour's worth of podcast, so I try to find the best nuggets that I can to share with you. But please share that stuff with your friends. Tell them about it. Once again, if you want to leave me a tip, I've got a QR code right here on the video that you're able to scan on your phone and leave a tip, or there's a link in the description. $50 or more will get you a Houston Sports State of the Union podcast t-shirt. I want to get these t-shirts out there, which is why I keep waiting for somebody in the chat to tell me that they want to call in for an opportunity to win a free one. I don't have anyone here tonight. That's okay. Maybe you're watching the presidential debate, and that's what kept you from tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this show today a lot more than you're going to enjoy that debate. The State of the Union in Houston is still strong. The Astros are on a win streak. The Houston Rockets have got a young sharpshooter to add to an already talented young nucleus. And the Houston Texans very well may be one of the top teams in the AFC. It's an exciting time to be a Houston sports fan. I love you guys. I will see you guys next week on Thursday. In the meantime, you know what I want you to do. Stay 10 toes down for H-Town. I love you, and I'll see you next week.
This has been the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast, hosted by Nick Stevenson. Tune in next week for more news and analysis of your favorite Houston teams. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, the app formerly known as Twitter, if that's even really still a thing. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.